Good morning, guys. I am doing video 2 of a series of videos to answer homeschool questions. This summer, I have gotten a number of friends and acquaintances and some even strangers asking me homeschool related questions. Because of what's happening in our world today, a lot of you are considering actually homeschooling your children. And so in yesterday's video, my first video, I talked about the differences between virtual homeschool and legal homeschool. And in generally speaking, the main difference is who is taking your child's attendance, who is overseeing your child's education. So if your child is enrolled in a public school or private school, that school system is taking your child's attendance. That school is making sure that that child is getting assignments, completing those assignments, and they are holding on to some grades and some of your child's work to show the progress of your child. So if you want to watch kind of the complete overview of what is legally required for you if you decide to legally homeschool, you can watch that first video. But today I wanted to do kind of a second part. Also in this video, I will be talking about what if your child is not 6 by September 1st. And so that was one of the questions that I said I would talk about in yesterday's video. But first of all, I found some good information. Oh, by the way, I'm getting all this information that I'm talking about off of homeschooling, the Wisconsin Parents Association website. And you can find all this information on their website if you go to www.homeschooling-wpa.org. You can find all this information that I'm sharing with you. So one of the great pieces of advice that I found on this website was homeschooling during a crisis, like this illness outbreak and this pandemic. The most important thing that we're looking at as parents is what is best for our students. And homeschooling really has been a carefully thought out way of educating that families consider, and most families take a lot of time to consider the pros and cons, because there are pluses and there are positives and negatives of any educational choice that you choose. But one of the things that the Parents Association says is homeschooling is not generally considered a temporary or short-term fix to short-term crises like epidemics. Homeschooling is an educational choice to be taken in view of the full picture of your child's educational needs and your family's beliefs. So your child can be enrolled in only one educational program at a time, meaning they're enrolled in a homeschool or they're enrolled in public, private, charter, or virtual charter school. Consider carefully how enrollment in a homeschool to address a temporary health crisis may affect your family. So one of the negative things I see about so many families considering pulling their children temporarily and legally homeschooling them is it really has taken, I think this is across the board, it takes a homeschool family sometimes a year or two to really find what works best for the child, what works best for whoever's a primary teacher, the educational the person who's doing the educating at home, whether that's the mom or the dad or another person that you choose to teach your child. It may take a year or two to figure out what curriculum is working best. And if you're only going to be homeschooling for 1 year or part of a year, it may be a better option for you to stick with your public school and look into their virtual programming. Why? Because once you feel comfortable to send your student back into the public school, their transition back into that curriculum that style of education will be much easier flow. So if you still are considering homeschooling as a choice for your family and for your child, I would recommend it if you're looking for it in a long term. We're talking a number of years, maybe through elementary school or in through the middle school years. Homeschool really is best when it's looked at as a longer term, in the long term. So I hope that makes sense. So I wanted to address that first. All right, so today I also wanted to talk a little bit about what is not required. What is not required of you if you are homeschooling? Some things that are not required of homeschoolers in the state of Wisconsin. You are not required to follow a certain set of curriculum. We talked a little bit about that yesterday. And there are thousands of curriculums to choose from that cross all spectrums of learning styles. Curriculums are not certified. So you're not going to be able to go out there and find some certified curriculum. This is a certified second grade curriculum. You as the administrator and the primary educator of your child will be able to make that choice. If you do choose to send your student back into public school and you know that that is your future plan, I would recommend looking at your school system scope and sequence. You can talk to teachers or your principal to find out what topics are being covered in different school years, say in science or history, so you can match that so that there's less chance of gaps where your student is maybe going to be doubling up on information that they're receiving from their education. But there's no certified curriculum, so you choose what that is. In the state of Wisconsin, you are not mandated or required by law to give your students a test. So there's state testing that happens in the public school system, and a lot of private schools, even Christian schools, will administer a state test. And that's beneficial in some ways, and you can weigh those negatives and benefits with you and your spouse or your partner, or your child's parent, to decide if you want to go that route. And if you do, you are able to give your child those state tests, but you're not required to. So that's important to know. Also, you're not required to have school officials review and approve your curriculum or to look at any of your progress reports or your students' testing. You are fully responsible to keep all of those records. Also, you are not required in the state of Wisconsin to be a certified teacher or even to have a high school diploma. There's no specific educational degrees or there's nothing that's required of you to be able to teach your student. Anything that you print off, if you decide to create a progress report or for a report card for your student, that is considered a legal progress report or a report card. So I have done report cards in the past, mainly if my kids want one. They like to see how they're doing, and so I would look at their tests, because we do tests for certain subjects. I would look at their daily work, and as a teacher, what they're getting, what they're understanding, the amount of how they're learning a subject, and if they're excited about it or if they're just fighting you and not working up to full potential. I look at all those things to grade them and talk with them about their grades and how they're doing. And also transcripts. Legally, in the entire nation, a high school transcript that is created and given to a student from their parent, a parent that has filled out the correct form in the state of Wisconsin and has followed all of the state's legal homeschool requirements, is a binding and legal document. So that, what does that mean? It means that your student if they want to go to a post-secondary, a secondary school, a private school, college, state school, whatever they want to go to, if they want to join the armed forces, that transcript is, it needs to be recognized by all of those entities. Legally, it is required that they recognize that transcript. So it is your responsibility as the parent to make sure that you are abiding by your state's homeschool laws, and that is what will allow you to help your student through their learning process, through their schooling and education, and into college. The last thing I wanted to address today is if your student is 5, under the age of 6. So in the state of Wisconsin, let me see if I can find this. Is on a different paper here, but you can find this also on the Wisconsin Parents Association website. In the state of Wisconsin, you do not need to, the compulsory school law does not start until your child is 6 by September 1st of that school year. So what about a child who's 4 or 5? What about preschool and kindergarten? Well, in 2009, Wisconsin Act 41 was passed that requires children who attend a public school for first grade to have completed a kindergarten program. So what does this mean? It means that when you fill out your PI 1206 form to the DPI, you will, if your child is under the age of 6, on September 1st, you will not add your student to that form. However, if you plan to send them to first grade in a public or private school next year for first grade, when they go into first grade, you will need to find out from your school district what is required of them for kindergarten. And you can still choose to keep them home for preschool and kindergarten, but you will need to find out what the requirement is, and you can request that from your school district. So again, a 5-year-old student will not be enrolled in any formal education if you're keeping them home. You do not fill out your PI 1206 form to include them, but you do need to have some sort of a program. Now, if you are not planning to send your child to first grade in the public school or private school next year, you don't need to do that. You don't need to find out, because you will still just choose what curriculum you'll use, and you as the administrator will keep all of that documented yourself. So I hope that answers even more of your questions, and if you have any specific questions for me you'd like to see me answer, please leave it in the comments below, and I'd be happy to address that. But I will keep trying to post these videos daily or every few days, and I hope it's helpful for you. Thanks for watching. Bye.